to my dad on a giant Apache from a bear trap. Next day, the chief demanded he marry his daughter. The desert evening was falling fast when the scream ripped through the stillness, raw, powerful, and unlike anything a man heard twice in his life without trembling. It echoed off the Red Canyon walls like thunder made of human pain. Colt Renshaw froze in his saddle, the reins tightening in his hands. His horse snorted and stamped the dust uneasy. That scream wasn't from a coyote, and it sure as hell wasn't from any ordinary man. Colt kicked his horse forward, heart thundering, instinct screaming that whatever made that sound was trapped, bleeding and in deadly trouble. He raced across the open stretch of desert, past the mesquite shrubs and the leaning saguaro, until the dying sun caught a glint of metal in the sand. A bear trap. A huge one, homemade, brutal, and cruel. And inside it lay a man big enough to look carved from a mountainside. The Apache warrior was enormous, towering even while collapsed. His chest was broad as a wagon door, his arms thick with muscle, his long black hair caked with dust and sweat. Blood streaked down his leg where the jagged teeth of the trap held him like the jaws of hell. His face was twisted in agony, but his eyes, dark and ferocious, were fixed on Colt with the sharpness of a wolf ready to bite even while dying. Colt lifted his hand slowly. "Easy, friend. I ain't here to harm you." The warrior bared his teeth, gripping the sand with both hands as if preparing to drag himself away, or kill Colt if he got close. His breath came in ragged, pained growls. Colt dismounted, palms up. "If I leave you here, nightfall finishes you. Buzzards'll pick what's left by sunrise. Only way out of that mess is me." Silence. Then the warrior's eyes softened a fraction, just enough for Colt to move. He knelt beside the trap. The metal was old but viciously strong. It took all his weight, both hands, and a prayer, muttered through clenched teeth before the jaws snapped open with a violent metallic crack. The warrior roared, thrashing as Colt dragged his leg free. When it was done, Colt tied a quick bandage, poured water over the wound, and eased the giant Apache upright. The warrior's breathing steadied. He stared at Colt long and hard, like a hunter studying a strange breed of deer. Then he spoke one word, "Kai." Colt nodded. "Colt." Kai touched his chest, then Colt's shoulder, a gesture of respect. And then he passed out. Colt didn't think twice. He hauled the mountain of a man onto his horse and started toward the reservation, settlement across the dunes. By the time the stars were out, he was dragging an unconscious giant through the main clearing of the Apache camp, and dozens of warriors rose from the fires, weapons drawn, eyes burning with the fury of men who believed a cowboy brought them a corpse. Colt raised both hands. "He ain't dead. He's hurt bad." The warriors rushed forward. They lifted Kai from Colt's arms, shocked, murmuring prayers and curses. When they realized Kai was alive, the tension in the air shattered into frantic urgency. Then the crowd parted. The chief approached. He was tall, older, scarred with wisdom, and walked with the authority of a king. Beside him stood a woman, a breathtaking figure of strength. Her posture proud, her eyes striking like stormlit amber. She was nearly as tall as Kai, all muscle and poise, with long braids down her back and a carved knife at her hip. Colt realized instantly this was the chief's daughter, and she was dangerous in a way that made even a seasoned cowboy swallow hard. The chief stepped close to Colt, staring at him as if seeing the marrow inside his bones. "You brought my son back." "Son?" Kai was the chief's own blood. Colt nodded. "Found him trapped. Would have died if I rode past." The chief's gaze intensified. Few men would risk themselves for a warrior of another people. Colt shrugged. "Man's life is a man's life." The chief motioned. Kai was carried into a lodge. The tribe worked quickly, cleaning the wound, chanting over him. Colt waited outside, unsure if he'd be thanked or killed. Hours passed. Finally, the chief emerged again. He studied Colt silently before speaking. "My son told us what you did," before sleep took him again. Colt blinked. "He's awake?" "Yes," the chief said solemnly. "And he says you fought the trap as if wrestling a mountain. He says you saved him when he begged death to come instead. He says your courage is the size of the desert." Colt scratched the back of his neck. "Well, he's a large fella. Takes a lot to kill a man built like that." Slowly, the chief smiled. Not a small smile, but a knowing one. The kind a father makes before dropping a boulder on someone's life. "You saved the chief's blood," he said. "We owe a life debt. A debt that must be honored." Colt nodded politely. "I ain't looking for payment. The chief raised his hand. But payment will come, it must. Colt opened his mouth to protest, when the chief's next words hit him like a rifle butt. You will marry my daughter. Colt choked. What now? The chief gestured to the woman beside him. She stepped forward, tall, formidable, her gaze unblinking. Up close, her beauty was fierce. Cheekbones like carved stone, muscles that looked like she could lift a horse, and eyes sharp enough to slice a man clean open. This is Noya, the chief said. She is strong, fearless, and unmatched in battle. You saved her brother. Now she shall be your wife. Colt felt his heart drop clear to his boots. Chief, your daughter seems like a fine woman, but I didn't. You refuse an honor? The chief cut sharply. No, sir, just surprised is all. Noya crossed her arms, studying Colt with all the warmth of a mountain lion sizing up dinner. You are smaller than I expected. Colt blinked. Well, ma'am, you're very tall. A few warriors chuckled. Noya tilted her head. Do you fear me? Laughed, deep, warm, unexpected. Good, fear keeps you sharp. Colt smirked. Then I'm gonna be real sharp for the rest of my life. Noya leaned against him, and though she was strong enough to crush him, the gesture was gentle, comforting. Maybe this wasn't the future he planned, but it was a future that had found him. As the fire crackled and the drums beat into the night, Colt realized something shocking. He didn't feel trapped. He felt chosen, and in the wild, unforgiving West, that was rarer than gold. Cowboy? Fear, Colt said, trying not to show how terrified he suddenly was. No, ma'am. Respect, sure. A whole lot of respect. The chief nodded, satisfied. Good. Tomorrow at sunrise, the union will be blessed. Colt stiffened. Tomorrow? The chief clapped him on the back hard enough to nearly crack a rib. Rest well. You will need strength, Noya added. If you run, I will find you. Colt gave a weak smile. I bet you would. That night, Colt couldn't sleep. He lay on a woven mat inside a guest lodge, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how saving a man's life had turned into accidental engagement to the strongest woman in the territory. By dawn, he had decided to slip out quietly and explain himself later. But when he crawled outside, he stopped cold. Noya was already there, arms crossed, eyebrow raised, blocking the only exit. You walk early, she said. Colt swallowed. And you guard early. I guard what is mine, she replied simply. Colt lifted his hands. Now hold on. I ain't refusing, just thinking things over. Noya stepped closer, her shadow swallowing his. Do you doubt I can be a good wife? No, ma'am, Colt said quickly. I reckon you'd make a mighty fine one. I'm just a simple cowboy, don't know if I'm fit to marry into a chief's family. You saved my brother. That is all the proof needed. But she put a finger on his chest. Even that felt like being poked by a tree trunk. You will stand with me, she said softly. Or do you wish to insult my father before the whole tribe? Colt exhaled. There was no fight here he could win. And honestly, Noya was beautiful in a fierce, unforgettable way. Maybe fate knew what it was doing. All right, he said finally. I'll do it. Noya smiled for the first time. Slow, proud, dangerous. Good. The ceremony was unlike anything Colt had ever experienced. Warriors drummed, elders chanted, and the tribe gathered in a great circle. The chief spoke of honor, courage, and unity. Colt stood beside Noya, feeling small and awkward next to her towering strength. She placed a hand on his arm, firm, grounding. For all her fierceness, there was something steady in her touch, something loyal. Kai, limping but alive, joined them, gripping Colt's shoulder with a strength that nearly dislocated it. You saved me, he said. Now you are my brother. Colt nodded. Glad to see you standing, Kai. Then the chief raised his staff high. Today, he declared, the cowboy becomes family. The tribe erupted in cheers. Drums thundered. Noya leaned close and whispered, You are mine now, Colt Renshaw, and I protect what is mine. Colt swallowed hard. Reckon I understand. That night, as the celebration roared through the camp, Colt sat beside Noya by the fire. The flames reflected in her eyes, and for the first time, she seemed less like a warrior and more like a woman shaped by both strength and heart. I scared you, she said. Terrified, Colt answered honestly. She